In Africa, we are engaging with Europe with a view toward taking the relationship to a higher level and making sure it is adapted to the times we live in today. For one thing, Africa has assets and capabilities to offer to the partnership, both human and material. Let's not ask what can be done for Africa. The guiding question should be, what can Europe and Africa do together for mutual benefit, which neither can accomplish alone? The reference point is the Africa-Europe strategy approved at the joint summit in Abidjan in November 2017. The goal is to have an instrument that structures the continent-to-continent relationship in 4 key areas: trade, peace and security, migration, and climate change. This approach will bring clarity to the relationship and importantly provide a framework for much needed mutual accountability. Agreeing on this framework should be the primary outcome of the next Africa-Europe Summit. We aim to change the terms of engagement on trade and investment. The African Continental Free Trade Area is now entering the implementation phase. This opens up new opportunities for more attractive cooperation with the partners who are invested in Africa's prosperity. It is therefore important to ensure that the space to properly and fully implement the CFTA is respected. We wish to negotiate the future trading rules on a continent-to-continent basis, not in a fragmented or haphazard manner. On climate change, Africa has made multilateral commitments in the context of the Paris Agreement, which cannot be put aside. Africa's road to attaining the Paris Agreement, the way to attaining the Paris Agreement objectives may differ from Europe's, and that should not be seen as a problem. We also want to take the relationship to the next level in terms of a common understanding of governance. The attitude of adult supervision has to be left in the past. Examples of right or wrong conduct can be found everywhere. We must avoid the temptation to reduce Africa to the lowest common denominator with blanket judgments and generalizations. There cannot be a mutually respectful partnership premised on the unspoken assumption that one party lacks values or has defective values, while the other party is a fully formed moral agent. The complexity of politics, history, and context, and public opinion in every country requires a sensitive understanding and a willingness to genuinely listen, learn, and adapt. We are not talking about excusing wrongdoing or abusing the principle of sovereignty to evade responsibility, and there are some who do so. It is about dialogue, respect, and a commitment to the more robust partnership which both Africa and Europe need in order to prevail over the challenges of the 21st century together. For Africa, Europe is a partner of choice for many reasons. I believe that next year's summit is the right time to demonstrate the readiness for change and progress on both sides. We look forward to the new Africa-Europe Foundation and this distinguished group of personalities playing an important role in the process, including the business leaders who are involved. I thank you so very much for your attention.
Solve societal as well as economic problems.
See, I wasn't told that I was going to come to a panel and be traumatized by what I hear. But I feel like what both of you said is as far away from what we need to be thinking about as could possibly be. You said that it's a distraction for government to be thinking about 4IR, that government might not be focused on this. This shouldn't be government's priority. There's nothing more appropriate and better to close inequality than 4IR. Like, there is, it's like saying when there was 2IR and 3IR, African government should have been focused on slavery and decolonization, which is what they told us to do. And then we let other people invent computers and use computers. Because African governments were supposed to focus on democracy, and we're supposed to focus on how we deal with post-colonization. They didn't tell us to invest in computation because we weren't supposed to do that. The idea that we could possibly still in today be talking about whether it's appropriate for African governments to be doing 4IR is almost repulsive. Because I'm an African government person and I sit in government and I use 3D printing with the president of Sierra Leone to look at where girls are not in school, and we use that data printed in front of us to look at the spikes and figure out how we do distribution of school buses. Because I sit in the president's office and we talk about AI and blockchain, and how we can use eKYC for women who don't have banks, because the banks are only using cards, and these women are not going to get it to be able to access financing. I'm driving, having a drone corridor because we need to use satellite imagery and ground truth data that is not present in Africa, and so we're building models on data that the European Space Agency has at NASA to go and predict forest cover and loss in Africa. So it is repulsive to be a government person and get told that we should not be thinking about 4IR because it's not our priority. There's nothing that is more important for us as African governments and African leaders to begin to understand how we use the technologies of blockchain, of drones, of 3D printing, because, you know, the US is not leading us far away and China is not leading us far away. So if we're not thinking about that now and we have to think about it in 50 years, where will we be? And so when it comes to who should be doing it, I think the risk remain, the challenges remain, and the inequality is going to be there. That is why we need to have girls coding. That is why we need to have young people coding. That is why the people in government should be young people. So yes, the president of Sierra Leone, I can text him from wherever I am, and the composition that I texted him today was how we're going to use data and 4IR to lead our people. And he engages on that. And yes, the president of Sierra Leone today will ask me to go and do a 4IR presentation to the rest of his cabinet because he understands that it is important, that that's the only way we're going to solve Sierra Leone's problems. How do we address maternal mortality that's the highest in Sierra Leone? We don't go and say, let's just sit down and have a conversation about family planning because that's what happens, and you know, then if people are having fewer babies, that's fine. But we can and should use the digital data that we have for all of our health facilities and figure out what AI models tell us how women should have access, what USSD solutions we build to tell women when they don't know when to go to health facilities to go there, to be able to use USSD to find their nearest hospitals. That's what we should be doing.
Sometimes, as a Christian, I think to myself, when God is upstairs and is looking down upon his earth and is looking at his children, he must hold his chin and said, these children that I put in Africa, what happened? What happened? In the words of Paul in his letter to the Galatians, you foolish African, who has bewitched you? Who has bewitched us? Who has bewitched us? It is a legitimate question which we do not want asked because our egos don't, but we must ask it, who has bewitched us? Who has bewitched us that we have no faith in ourselves? Who has bewitched us that when we have our wives who are expectant, we send them to the United States in order to deliver boys and girls who will become the citizens of the United States? Who has bewitched us? Who has bewitched us that we are humiliating ourselves at the embassy of the United States of America so that we can have a 5-year visa? Who has bewitched us that we are applying every year to win a lottery for the green card, and when we win it, we have parties? Who has bewitched us? These are painful questions, particularly for the younger generation. Who has bewitched us that our young men and women are risking limb and life, crossing the desert from Nigeria, Niger, and Chad, and Mauritania, and Mali, and dying in the Mediterranean Sea on the belief that when they land in Italy, their life will never be the same, and the best they do there is to flip hamburgers? Who has bewitched us? Who has bewitched us that it is the European leaders who are meeting in Germany to determine how can we do, and what can we do for these Africans? And yet we have leaders who, if you do not address them as His Excellency, you could be charged with treason in some countries. Who has bewitched us? Who has bewitched us? Because right now, in every African country, civilization that know what they want are looking at African resources. The Chinese are here. Right now, for many who are in the middle class, if you ask which language you want to learn as a foreign language, is Mandarin. I was telling my pastor that he should not be surprised next time there is a baptismal service when he asks the godparents of some of the children, and what name do you give this child? They'll say, Deng Xiaoping to him. In other words, culturally we are being reconquered again. We established the University of Namibia, we established the University of Nairobi, the University of Dar es Salaam, complete with civil engineering, but even your beautiful road here in Namibia, taking us to the airport, is being done by the Chinese. Our beautiful road in Nairobi, Kenya, which we call the Thika Superhighway, was done by the Chinese. The road in Uganda from Entebbe to Kampala is being done by the Chinese. The port of Tema in Ghana is being done by the Chinese. The airport in Ghana is being done by the Chinese. Oh, the Chinese. Oh, the Chinese. Where are our engineers? Where are our doctors? Right now, I would not be surprised if at the University of Namibia there is not an institute called the Confucius Institute. There are Confucius Institute at the University of Nairobi, at the University of Dar es Salaam. The Chinese know what they want. And throughout the ages, those who know what they want get what they want. if they work at it. The question is, do we know what we want? How can we possibly know what we want if we don't even know in the first place? And once again, I'm saying that the leadership is at the very heart of it. You know, African countries have many ethnicities. Here in Namibia, you don't have the problem in that major sense. In my country, in Kenya, we have it, but we have succeeded in managing it. In Tanzania, 120 ethnicities, but Mwalimu Julius Nyerere was very clear that if you want things to divide you, you'll always get them. Therefore, we must look for things that unite us. And I'm submitting to us that Africa will only realize their potential if we who are assembled here, particularly those of us who have gone to school. You know, it used to be said that we should think out of the box. I'm submitting to us that time has come that we must think without the box. We must throw away the box and begin thinking, because we do not know who brought this box. But we are being told to think outside of. It used to be said that we must heat the iron while it is hot. I'm saying no, we should heat the iron so that it becomes hot. In other words, I'm saying we must begin to do things